Welcome to the Beyond Pain podcast with your host, Joe Gambino and Joe LaVacca. Join the two Joes, two physical therapists, as they discuss how to navigate the uncertainties of pain so you can move beyond it and get back to the activities you love most. This podcast is for Joe, and their guests to share their clinical thoughts and ideas based on their collective clinical experiences. Can this information be for you? Maybe, but we cannot know for sure. Therefore, it is always worth talking to your healthcare provider to make the best decisions in your care before you implement anything on this podcast. And please use common sense. Welcome back into this episode of the Beyond Pain podcast. I am one of your hosts, Joe Gambino, and I am here with Joe LaVacca, as always. Lovely to have you here, Joe. It's a pleasure actually every Friday to do this. I feel like we were really close to perfect stride. Then we had this long period of like talking here and there, and then we've rekindled over the last several months. So yeah, it's been very enjoyable. More so from this perspective than the education point and podcasting I've always found fun, but this has been the most valuable thing.
I completely agree with you, and I think I mentioned in our last episode. Thank you for doing this with me over the last, we were almost at 6 months, right?
I guess so. I mean, this is going to be episode 31. So I guess that's 31 weeks of more than half a year.
This is a 6-month anniversary. This relationship and podcast are getting serious.
It is.
They're getting serious. We're taking it to the next level.
Mustache.
Well, that was the other thing. So your birthday took precedence in last episode, but for people who might be tuning in and watching this on Instagram or YouTube, we got to talk about the mustache for at least a minute or two. So guide us through this, because I can't imagine Jen's very happy.
No, she's not. She hates it. She hates it. She could probably hear me tell people that I hate it right now.
So then what was the impetus behind this for people who don't know about the mustaches in November?
Yeah, so this is I don't really do it every year. I haven't done it in quite a long time, but it's a Movember tradition. I always will do a little donation for prostate cancer, which is a whole Movember movement. So I decided to have a little bit of fun. I was also hoping that when I went to go get my daughter from her nap, you ever see those videos of like when like a guy who has like their beard, dad has their beard for so long, and then they shave their face, and then their kid has this like epic reaction. I thought that Olivia might have it, and she literally just like nothing. She did like touch my face for a while, like realize, probably it. Touch my face for a while and like, oh, this is different. But otherwise, it was normal. So that was I wouldn't say it's lackluster, but I was hoping for to see if there was at least like a recognition that something has changed, but not really.
Well, it's early. It's November 8th, right? As we're recording this. I mean, there's still hope for this to kind of freak her out and maybe scar a childhood memory or something. Nah. Maybe if it gets longer, we can start curling it a little bit. Maybe we can start doing some designs.
There's like a gap here. Always. I have like a little gap here before my beard. So I couldn't
But this is going to get longer. Like the side where it's not grown in, like to just do a little,
not too much.
Like a little,
it literally comes maybe a little bit and then nothing and then beard.
All right. I still think there's some opportunity. I think we can get a whisker or two going.
Maybe.
You just need to, just give it some nurturing. Talk to it. Okay. I think petting it. Maybe put some hair oil or something on it.
Oh, I do.
With all the stuff that Avery has for her hair, her skin, and everything else, I'm sure there's something I can send you.
To help my mustache.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Coming a little thicker. Although I think it looks better than last time I did. I did it last time for Fernando's bachelor party, which was many moons ago at this point.
Yeah.
But I feel like my facial hair was lighter then, and also maybe it wasn't even as thick. So I don't know. I like this one much better.
All right, very good.
Maybe it's just my older age.
My beard is slowly kind of coming back into form. I was Eddie Vedder for Halloween, and Eddie's sort of beard is a little bit more of like that chin strap sort of approach. At least that's what it looked like in sort of several videos and angles. So when I was Eddie Vedder to, please Courtney, because her number one band is Pearl Jam, the number one probably man in her life is Eddie Vedder. So it was nice to just give her, 24 hours where she was like kind of with Eddie. But Yeah, it's still, you can still see like where it was,
Mm-hmm.
chin strappy, a little darker. This is still taking some time, but I think by next week
It'll be all
we'll
right.
be evened out, and then we'll see how far your mustache has gone.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where where it goes.
Yeah.
We shall
All right.
see. But today, I mean, it will be a little mini-sode.
Mini so.
Yes, I'm actually interested because you brought this up right after our last conversation, and I am curious to see what the stories you have behind it and what you think about this. And I actually just in general, and I think this is actually a pretty good topic because I don't believe that everybody who has pain needs to go to physical therapy. There are probably some points where people may start to consider it, but I'll just pose the question and then we'll go from there. But does everyone in pain need PT?
Correct. Great. And um, recency bias, right? This was sort of inspired by a client I saw last week. She was dealing with some pain in her ankle, maybe a tendon like pain, right? Running a lot, has a family member who's also like in the healthcare profession. So obviously when you're not seeing, someone you care about and they're telling you, hey, I'm in pain and hey, I'm in this, the first thought, and I would say the same thing, is we'll go get it looked at. What are you waiting for? I'm a physical therapist. There's plenty of physical therapists near you and we can try to find you someone. So fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, this girl found me. And when we were sort of looking at things from where she was when she started the pain a few weeks ago to where she was now, it was very mild. Her strength was looking a lot better. There was no signs of swelling or tissue damage. Yeah, we could probably elicit a little bit of pain with palpation. And, we don't have a new data point for like a long run test yet, but all our short runs were going pretty good, right? She could feel a little bit, but it wasn't changing her breathing. It wasn't resulting in any issues with her 12 or 24 hours later. It didn't seem like she was deviating in her form, and I think you brought up a case similar, like, and she's busy. There's a lot of things going on. She's also a healthcare professional too. So there's a lot of balls in the air to juggle. So once we looked at it, we came to the conclusion that, hey, she didn't need to be here, right? This was progressing in a really good way. And when these things are progressing and people are on the rise, I kind of feel like over treatment or over medicalization is going to pull them back down. And this rise or your recovery without me or physical therapy or anything else, I think is usually a testament to the person in front of us. They've invested in their health. They've taken time to eat right. They've slept. They prioritize relationships. They stay active, right? All these things. And we train. There's never a linear straight line to training, right? I always have a little bit of something where I'm like, oh, you know what? I couldn't push as hard today as I could 2 weeks ago. My shoulder was a little achy. We've talked openly on the program with your back, being, maybe one day you adjust, one day you can push, right? So even me and you sort of, with maybe knowledge as, our background can modify now. So I sent her on her way. And this happens, relatively frequently, I think, when I was reflecting on it, that I'm checking someone. I don't assume that just because they had pain, they're going to continue to flare and continue to have pain when their trajectory has been improving. So what do you think about that? Do you sort of like have these patients that pop up, and then how do you handle them in terms of setting up expectations for future?
Yeah, I think what I run into most where I'm not sure if someone really needs any sort of guidance, and it becomes up to them because I do both the fitness side of things and the
Right.
rehab side of things, right? So it's a little different when someone's coming to me. But when I'm having a conversation with somebody, and a lot of the questions I ask, like I really try to get to figure out how like it impacts someone's life. When someone's like, "Oh, I have pain, but it doesn't stop me from doing anything. It doesn't like." If I ask them like, well, why do you want to, take care
Yeah.
of this? And they're like, well, I don't know. You know, well, then I'm like, well, maybe you don't really need anything, right? You're already active. You're doing things. You're actively working on trying to feel better. So unless it's been like going on for a really long time or it started to get a little bit worse, or there's something that tells me that like maybe you should take care of it. But if you don't have a real why for like why you want to get better. And like you're like, I've even asked someone, I was like, well, do you even like care about taking care of this? And they're like, not really.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why are we on call?
Yeah.
Like
I'm here
so
because someone else told me to be here.
yeah. So they're like, yeah, I just wanted to talk about it and maybe see if there's something I should do. I was like, well, here, try this, and see what happens. But yeah, I think those are the cases, right? Like where I think someone needs it is it starts to impact their life. There's like you feel like it needs to get better. But if you just have some pain, or even if like you just had like a little bit of a flare up, and all of a sudden you're like 5 days later, 7 days later, 10 days later, your pain's back to normal, you probably don't need to go see anybody, right? Like if someone
Right.
like one of my clients or someone I know, they're like, oh, this happened, like my back hurts. I'm like, let's give it a few days. Let's see what happens. Because this is a
Hmm.
normal
Hmm.
course of flare ups. And like, if they just come back down and resolve, like it's probably just a blip that happens to everybody. I have like
Sure.
something that bothers me every now and again, low level, goes away. That by the time I wake up the next morning, no need for me to worry about it. Right. And so when it lingers around for a while, it really starts to impact life is like when I'm like, okay, whether you feel like you should or not, like it's probably in your best interest to take care of it.
Yeah. I think you bring up a really good point because if it's not limiting you day to day, it's really not interfering with your activities. It's just a sort of an occasional nuisance. And I get that you would rather not feel it. But when you don't have a goal for physical therapy per se, then maybe that's why people feel physical therapy is not worth their time or it didn't help them. Well, what was it supposed to help you achieve? You're already moving, you're already working out, you're already doing every single thing. So why don't we look at this objectively and then say, well, are you at risk for making something worse? And I don't have a crystal ball, but if we run through some assessments, we run through some things with range of motion or form checks, maybe this is another thing where we look at load management because the person I was thinking of was just reflected of another client that I had who sent me a picture of actually his calf and his ankle. And he was like, oh, I have some swelling here. And I'm like, all right, well, take me through it. What happened? I was out for my run and, for the last, cycle of on and off running, I really pushed, I wanted to push speed. Right. So I opened it up and, and then I just kind of felt it tighten up a little bit. And, here we are. And I'm like, okay, well, right then and there, I would say to you, well, why did we wait for the 10th round of an on and off to add speed? If we look into your program, we haven't really been building a lot of speed work or maybe plyometric work just yet. So I would say that this is sort of a normal response. Now, he wanted to sort of go get it looked at. So, okay, I understand your concern. You see a change in tissue, but I don't see any bruising. Range of motion was still okay. I had him do a couple quick strength tests, right? He was all good. The MRI comes back, just shows fluid in the area. And now it's like, okay, we're back to sticking with our plan, right? I didn't deviate anything, right? The swelling, I think, will get better, but this is a perfect responsive tissue when it's pushed towards capacity, right? It gets a little inflamed. Maybe there's some swelling. Maybe there's this, maybe there's that. But I think, again, holding on to objectivity to say, well, are you limping? No. All right. Is there bruising, redness, anything else? No. Are you sleeping okay? Yes. All right. Is it bothering you with squats, lunges, deadlifts, this, that? No. Okay. So you know what? I'm not going to make this a thing. Let's just move forward, call it some phantom, physically unexplained symptom. We'll put it into this one of the unknown questions of the universe. And then let's just keep moving. And I think maybe that too is another thing where I always tell people this. Anything we do together, I expect you're going to have pain. You're already coming in with pain. So I don't think that you having a little bit more pain or, something that, gets a little sensitive for an extra period of time after you do an exercise is cause for concern to change what we've agreed to as far as programming. Because the whole program was built off of your initial evaluation, getting to know you, all these objective measures and tests. So then why would this one morsel of a change be enough to shift directions? So if you're out there and you are concerned, to your point, maybe if it's limiting you in something or you feel like you're suffering, then yeah, maybe it's time to get your pain looked at. But if you have pain and you're confident and you feel okay, then continue your plan. That would be my best advice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I just think maybe like the last point before you take us home would be, not pain is not always a bad thing, right?
Right.
Get paid for a number of reasons, and I think yeah, it sucks, but it doesn't always mean that something needs to be done or something's wrong. So I just think that keep that in the back of your mind if you're listening, and continue the course if things aren't bad and you feel okay with your situation. And then the second that you feel like you're not okay with your situation, you have a whole industry of healthcare workers, right, that could potentially help you. So
yeah, perfect. All right, mini-sode. All right.
Take us home, baby.
All right. So, Joe, we love you. We love your mustache, maybe, even though Jen doesn't. Listeners, we love you. If you've made it this far, we really appreciate it. And be sure to tune in for another exciting episode of the Beyond Pain podcast next week.
Don't forget some love for you too, Joe.
Thank you, Matt.